Welcome to the Psychic Pinup Podcast, the anything and everything spiritual podcast where we dive into hot topics, readings, viewer questions, and more. Thank you for tuning in. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive right into it.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Anything and Everything Spiritual Podcast. My name is Linda, also known as the Psychic Pinup, and I am so glad that you're here today. I want to begin by saying welcome to 2026. This is our first episode of the year, and energetically it feels significant. There's a sense of freshness in the air, but also a quiet seriousness. Like Spirit is saying, this is not a year for noise. This is a year for intention. So today, we're talking about 2026 as a collective number one year. And you may have already heard people saying things like, it's a clean slate. Everything resets. It's the start of a whole new journey. But does a number one year really mean the slate has been wiped clean? And how do we move forward without inviting everyone else's opinions, projections, judgment, or even jealousy into our plans? And that's what I would like to unpack with you today. So take a breath, go grab yourself a cuppa if you wish. Settle in and let's begin. So, a collective number one year. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. Others, I'm sure you've got no idea and you're thinking, what the hell is she talking about? I'm in no way a numerologist. However, I have been hearing the number one collective year being thrown around a lot in the last month leading up to the end of the year. In numerology, a collective number one year represents beginnings, leadership, identity, and self-direction. Now, how do we get to a number one? Some of you are probably asking. Basically, what you do is add all of the numbers of 2026 together, and you keep adding until you get down to a single digit, which is a number one. Last year, as a collective, we were in a number 9 year. If you added 2025 together, until you get down to a single digit, it would go into a number 9. Number 9 represented endings. So collectively, as the universe, there was a lot of endings for many people. There was also a lot of tying up of loose ends for many people. A lot of people dropped out of your life. A lot of things just came to an end, all ready for the number one collective year. Effectively, we are in the first step of a new 9-year cycle. But here's something important that often gets glossed over, and I would like to talk about this. A number one year isn't about instant manifestation. It's about choice. So just think about that. We're not instantly manifesting because we are in a number 1 year, a new year. Everything's new. No. This year, 2026, the universe is asking you. You may even want to write this down in a journal and reflect back on it as the year goes on. Who are you choosing to be now? What path are you consciously stepping onto? Where are you no longer willing to follow, dilute, or explain yourself? Think about all of that. Again, I would encourage you to write that down and reflect on it as the year goes on. Because how you answer these questions is how your year is going to pan out for you. A number 1 year doesn't wipe the slate clean. It actually hands you the chalk. You still bring the wisdom, scars, lessons and experiences with you into a number 1 year. It's not like all of a sudden you've forgotten and you're starting afresh again. You are being handed the chalk to write on that slate. This is where you get to decide how you enter into the next chapter of your life. Spiritually speaking, this is a year of personal authority. Less asking for permission, less outsourcing your truth. Think about that one. More about, I know who I am becoming, even if I don't have all the details yet. So let's be honest. If the slate were truly wiped clean every 9 years, none of us would be carrying patterns, habits, or recurring themes. A number 1 year isn't about pretending the past did not happen. It's about stopping the past from driving the car. This year invites you to take responsibility for what you're creating now. And this is a really exciting time. It really, really is. Take responsibility. Acknowledge where you've outgrown old versions of yourself. Okay, you are not the same person that you were 9 years ago. Acknowledge that. Let's break those patterns. And more importantly, let's release the need to keep explaining your evolution. We are constantly looking for outside validation from others. Let's stop that. You might notice that old structures start to feel tight. Being relationships, work arrangements, even belief systems may suddenly feel misaligned. And I know me personally, it certainly has for all three. I find myself being a little bit more, bit of a recluse. I go within. I don't feel like I need to be connecting to so many people. I don't need to be explaining myself to people, and nor should you. Old belief systems, again, I feel it. A lot of things that I believed in when I first started doing spirituality, doing this sort of work, no longer aligns with me. It's not failure. It's just clarity, in my opinion. I've evolved. I have learned. I have experienced. I have clarity. A number 1 year also doesn't ask you to burn everything down either. It just asks you to maybe consider building things differently. And what I mean by that is not cutting yourself off from doing things, how you did things, people, but maybe approaching it from a different perspective. So this actually brings me to something I shared recently on a reel on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you don't already follow me on either one of those platforms, please consider doing so. But my first reel of the year was all about the number 1 collective year and what your plans are. And it felt important enough for me to elaborate and expand on it here. I was talking about plans, people's plans for 2026. And have you spoken about your plans to others? I've also pointed out in that reel that not every plan needs an audience. And let me explain why. And this is what I very quickly touched on the 2-minute reel, or however long that reel went for. A number 1 year is about keeping your plans to yourself. And it can be one of the most spiritually aligned things you can do for yourself for this year. The thing is, when you share something too early with others, you are inviting other people's fears, their projections, their limitations, their expectations. And yes, it even can create jealousy, especially when you are stepping up into leadership or independence. Some people just don't like to see you succeed. And do you know what? Jealousy doesn't always look like negativity either. Sometimes it can look like over-questioning. When people have a lot of questions about what you are doing. It can also look like doubt, disguised as concern. How many times do we share something with people and they start planting that seed of doubt by their concerns for you? I don't need that. I'm sure you don't either. And the best one, the advice that you get from others that you did not ask for. Didn't ask for your advice. If I want your advice, I would ask for it. And I'm sure every person listening to this podcast can relate to exactly what I am talking about. The thing is, your spirit, your soul knows when something is still forming. And sacred things need incubation, not commentary. Okay? Sacred things need incubation, not commentary. Your incubation is what's going on internally within you. You know, your soul knows. The commentary is that outside external noise, aka family, friends, colleagues. So this year, I would encourage with you, quiet confidence. Write that down in your journal. Quiet confidence. Maybe make that your word for the year. You do not need to announce every move. You do not need validation from others. You do not need to justify your timing. You will know what feels right, what does not feel right. But here's something fascinating about a number 1 year energetically. Because it's about identity and self-direction, external opinions can feel louder. Now, you may notice you may be feeling more sensitive to judgment. You may start second-guessing decisions after talking to others. Or you may start losing clarity after explaining your plans to others. This does not mean you're weak. It means your new path is still stabilizing. Okay, so just think about that. It does not mean that you are weak. Your new path is still stabilizing. And I would like you to honor that. Think more like you're planting a seed. Okay, so when you plant a seed in a garden, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing, do you? You wait. So this year is asking for you to have strong energetic boundaries. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Discernment around who gets access to your inner world. Okay, be careful who you surround yourself with. And most importantly, trust in your own knowing. As I said, you will know what feels right, what does not feel right. Not everyone deserves front row access to you. There's another one. Front row, you want some popcorn? Front row? No. Access denied. So a collective number 1 year. It calls us into leadership, but not a performative leadership. Bit of a difference there. This is about leading your own life. Making decisions that honour your nervous system. Choosing alignment over approval. That's a big one. Choose what aligns with you energetically over approval of external influences. Watch the difference. Now, if you start practicing this, you may feel a pull to redefining how you work also. And that's okay. As I said, my belief system has changed dramatically since starting this work. You may feel a pull to simplify your offerings. I certainly have. Me personally, this year, I am pulling back on the private readings. I'm not going to be giving so much of my energy to people. My readings are going to be limited with how many I do this year. You may feel a pull to go deeper rather than wider. That's another thing I am exploring at the moment too. I have stretched myself thin over the last 5 years, being here, there, everywhere. Yes, 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 I will do this without thinking. This year for me, it's all about going deeper within my work. Deeper. I'm still paving that way, but it's like, watch this space. 2026 is not the year to scatter your energy. It's the year to anchor it. Okay? So let's not make ourselves so thin. Let's put down roots and let's anchor in that energy this year. So if you felt the urge to do less but mean more, you're in tune with the energy. And remember, leadership doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. So as we move through 2026, I invite you to sit with these questions. What am I beginning? Quietly, intentionally, and for myself. Where do I need to trust my inner authority more deeply? Who actually needs to know my plans? And who doesn't? This year isn't about proving, it's about choosing. That's another little mantra for you. Let's make 2026 a year of not proving, but choosing. Choosing yourself, choosing your path, choosing discernment over disclosure. So thank you for being here, for listening to my rambling. Sorry, I can go on a bit of a tangent sometimes, but I get on a roll and that's the way it is. And for walking into this new cycle with intention. If this episode resonates, feel free to share it. And share it with someone who's stepping into a new chapter. I'll be back with more real talk, spiritual insight, and grounded conversation very soon. Until then, take care of your energy, trust your timing, and remember, not every beginning needs to be announced. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
You have been listening to Linda, the Psychic Pinup. Linda is a psychic medium based on the New South Wales south coast of Australia. You can connect with her via her website, thepsychicpinup.com.au, or join her on her weekly live feeds on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all under the same name, The Psychic Pinup. Thanks for listening.